الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. For the love of our beloved Prophet and his beloved progeny, please recite a second loud salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
For the hastening and the ta'jeel of the reappearance of our 12th Imam, please recite a third final loud salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So yesterday we started our talk regarding this concept of professionalism in Islam, and I gave you guys a very brief definition of what we're talking about when we use this word professional or professionalism. We said basically professionalism means that whatever task it is that I take on, whatever project, whatever duty it is that I have is on my shoulders, I do the best job at it. We said that today, if you look at the West, you find that a lot of the successes of the Western world is in debt to what? To this particular value. The fact that this value is so deeply embedded in the culture and in the society here. This is the reason for many of the successes that you see in the Western countries that we live in. And it's also the reason for many, unfortunately, many of the failures that we see in many of the other countries of the world. Amongst them, unfortunately, some Muslim countries as well, who are not as developed as they are supposed to be. We said that part of the reason for that, not all of the reason, part of the reason, is because this concept of professionalism is not as well and as deeply embedded in this culture. Recite another salawat. She's a troublemaker. So this concept is extremely important. Yesterday we started out our talk, we said there are four main questions regarding this topic that we want to discuss. We said when we look in the movement of Imam al-Hussein, I gave you guys examples from this last night, that when you look at the movement of Imam al-Hussein, left and right, you find that Imam al-Hussein takes his task very seriously. He's not joking around when he's going into this plain, the battlefield of Karbala. No, he has planned every single part of it. In fact, I gave you examples that he has not only planned before the trip, he is not only sharpening his sword on the night of Ashura because he knows he's going to go into the battlefield the next day and he has to fight. In fact, he has even planned for after his martyrdom. He is even, in fact, planned for after his shahadat. We said that he wrote his wasiyah, he left his wasiyah in Medina, so that when the fourth Imam makes this journey and comes all the way back to the city of Medina, Salama, that wife of the Prophet, would give this wasiyah to the fourth Imam. So you see that Imam al-Hussein, he takes this task of imamat extremely seriously. I gave you other examples as well. I will show you one more example and then inshallah we will carry on with the discussion. Another example that you see about how Imam al-Hussein, even though he knows on the day of Ashura he is going to become shaheed, still he does things in a very delicate and organized fashion, is this, that they say the morning that they woke up on the day of Ashura, they say the Imam had dug a ditch behind the tents of the women and the children, and some say that he started a fire behind the tents because he knew that these enemies would want to attack the tents of the women and the children. That's the soft spot of Imam al-Hussein. So he dug up this ditch, he started the fire, and because of that, because of this khandaq, the army was not able to attack the tents of the women and the children, so that he could fight this army on one side, and that would be the side that all of these companions would go to fight. So you see Imam al-Hussein, he takes his task very seriously. We said if we want to understand this concept from an Islamic perspective, there are four main questions that we have to ask in this regard. Number one, when we speak of this concept of professionalism, when we point to someone, we say you're a professional, or this person is a professional, what characteristics exactly does this person have that we refer to him as a professional? Number one. Number two, what is Islam's opinion about this? Does Islam have anything to say about professionalism or not? In other words, is there such a thing as a Muslim professional? or not? This is a serious question. Number 3, what is that important point when it comes to being a professional that the Western ideology cannot teach you, but the Islamic ideology does teach you? There's a missing ingredient in the Western school of thought that Islam has added to us, and this is something we can only learn from Islam. And number 4 is in the lives of our ulama, what examples do we have from them who were able to display professionalism at the highest levels of it? Yesterday, if you remember, we went through the story of Ayatollah Marashi Najafi, and we explained how this person set a goal for himself, and regardless of the obstacles that were there in front of him, he didn't stop until he achieved his goal. That's an example of professionalism. So we broke down this term of professional. We said there are 4 main characteristics. If someone has these 4 main characteristics, you call him what? A professional. Number 1, this person, when he's working on a project, he goes above and beyond expectations. Even if you're not sitting there watching him, he'll put in work and more work than what you had asked him to do in the first place. Number 2, he's not easily distracted from the work that he does. When he's working on his project, if you try to come and spend time and have fun, he says, no, I can't have fun with you right now. Right now, I'm focusing on this task. Number 3, this person who is a professional, when he gives his word, a promise, he can hold on to that promise. If he says, I'm going to be there 5 o'clock, he's going to be there 5 o'clock. You don't have to call him 5:30 and be like, brother, you're still not here. He's not like that. And number 4, this person, whatever he does, doesn't matter what he does, whatever it is he touches, he does it in a nice and neat and organized fashion. Sometimes he does it so nice that you just want to sit there and watch him doing what he is doing. These are the 4 main characteristics. Yesterday we talked all about the first characteristic, the importance of how much work you're supposed to put into the project that you are working on. Inshallah, tonight we will carry on with the 3 other characteristics. Recite a salawat, please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
The 3 other characteristics. The second one is this, that this person is not easily distracted from the work that he does. What does Islam have to say about this? Brothers and sisters, Islam doesn't have to tell us much about this issue. Islam builds certain habits inside of us, and because of those habits, we naturally, if we practice Islam properly, we naturally become less vulnerable to distractions when we are doing our work. What exactly am I talking about? What is one of the biggest distractions in the workplace today? In this society, and not just this society, even back home. One of the biggest distractions, if not the biggest, is the issue of the opposite gender interacting, the 2 genders interacting with one another. This is not just a matter of distraction nowadays, it's becoming serious. There's a time where you say, hey, this gender and that gender mixing, it distracts people from work. That's one thing. In today's society, in this society that we live in, if you guys watch the news, it's no longer a matter of just being distracted from your work. No, sometimes you see some of the highest ranking employees of this corporation or that corporation. Before you know it, this guy has a lawsuit against him. What's the lawsuit for? This person, opposite gender, he's abusing. Harassment of the opposite gender. I mean, I watched the news a couple days ago. Some of these actors that, you grow up seeing in this movie, that movie, all of a sudden you say, yes, this person, 20 women have come. 20 women are saying that this person did this or did that. I don't want to, of course, go into details there. His behavior was not proper when he was around us. And you're like, wow, this person, I grew up with this person. I grew up watching this person. I would never think that this person would also have to deal with something like this. So you see, it's not just a matter of distraction. Distraction is when a fly flies around here, we say, oh, we got distracted. No, this is a serious epidemic. And it's not that it wasn't there before, it's just that today more people are speaking about it. It's coming out more. Light is being shed on this issue. So what does Islam do? Islam builds certain habits in a Muslim, in a mu'min, if you and I are truly practicing Islam, that when it comes to the opposite gender, because you have worked on yourself since 20, 30 years ago, when you come to the opposite gender, you don't even sit around the opposite gender too much. When they have a meeting, and corporations have meetings, right? because they want to build a culture for themselves. When they have meetings, this mu'min, this Muslim, although he's required to go because it's his job, he has to go, but he knows that he's not supposed to be comfortable in that environment. He knows he's only allowed to go because if he doesn't go, he's going to lose his job. He knows Islam is only allowing him to go in that party type of atmosphere, only because it's an exception. And if he doesn't go, he's probably going to lose his job or there's going to be a major problem. Because of that, he never sits around and starts joking with the opposite gender. This is a major problem, brothers and sisters. Sometimes in our own communities. I remember I visited a community, it wasn't not in the States, somewhere else. I remember after, it was a very small community, mostly students. And I remember after the majlis, there was a brother and sister. They were laughing together and, having fun together after the majlis of Imam al-Hussein. And I sat there, and at first, I saw this for a second. I thought, oh no, they must be brothers and sisters, because they were just having such a good time. I thought to myself, there's no way these guys are non-mahram. Of course they're mahram to one another. Otherwise, they would never sit down and just laugh and have fun with one another. And then I asked, I said, these guys are brothers and sisters, right? I said, no, they're just students. It's just, we have a friendly atmosphere here. I don't want that type of friendly atmosphere. That's not the type of friendly atmosphere that Islam allows us to be part of. You know this term that they throw around sometimes, let's just get to know each other. This we don't believe in Islam. In Islam we believe that if you're part of a project, you have to be around the opposite gender, you have to interact with the opposite gender to take care of your work, then you can do that. If it goes beyond that, then sitting around and having fun and joking, no, that's going to lead to major problems. And this is creeping into our own communities, brothers and sisters. We don't hear about it too much, but I assure you, it is creeping into our own communities as well. So when it comes to distractions, Islam teaches us, and it builds habits in us, that naturally a mu'min, a Muslim, he is not going to be vulnerable when it comes to these types of distractions. When he's not distracted by the opposite gender, then he can sit down and focus on his work. This is why we have hadith, that if a Muslim and a mu'min, if he's able to watch and be careful and have control over the things that he looks at, he puts his own heart at peace. Man ghadda tarfahu araha qalbahu. He makes his qalb rahat. He puts his heart at peace. When your heart is at peace, then you can go about doing your work. But if your heart is not at peace, you're having temptations every 2 seconds, of course you're not going to be efficient in the workplace. So you see that Islam is setting us up to be more efficient than anyone else if we practice it properly in the workplace. Recite a salawat, please. In the Western ideology, because they don't build these habits in the children, in fact, they think it's very liberal and very open to expose your children to this type of stuff. Because they don't build this habit of controlling themselves, what happens? You hear about all of these things happening, and then when they want to solve the problem, what do? They say, you know what the problem is? The problem is we don't have enough cameras. We don't have enough security guards. Our laws are not strict enough. So what do? Add camera, security guards. But let me tell you something. You can't watch what someone is doing 24/7. You know what that's called? That's called prison. In prison, in prison you can watch someone 24/7, huh? In prison the guy goes left, you can watch him. Goes right, you can watch him. You can do that in prison. But if you want to have people in a free society, you can't watch them 24/7. So what does Islam do? Islam puts this idea and this concept in the mind of this person that, listen, if you go around, forget about just being distracted by the opposite gender. If you go around harassing the opposite gender, then there is going to be hellfire. Hellfire is going to harass you then. When you have that thought in your mind, that's the only thing that can stop the male from making these type of advances when it comes to the opposite gender. Otherwise, you can add as many cameras as you want, as many security guards as you want. It's not going to work. This issue, it's only going to get worse in this society and other societies where the faith and iman is missing. So this is how Islam teaches us to avoid these distractions. When you look at the life of Imam Khomeini, this is just an example, brothers and sisters. When you look at the life of Imam Khomeini, the way he did work without being distracted is truly a lesson for us. They say sometimes in the morning after Salatul Fajr, they used to start their day after Fajr. They say that he used to go and sit in his hujra, and some of his colleagues say that we used to also go and sit inside the hujra just to spend time with him, just to see what he does. And they say sometimes he would sit there from the morning all the way till noon, till Salatul Dhuhr, and he was working and he was studying. This is before he got too involved in politics, very involved in politics. Of course, when he got involved in politics, he wasn't even in Qums, so to speak, as much. He was exiled to different countries. But they say that he works with so little distractions that throughout this time, from Salatul Fajr all the way to Salatul Dhuhr, he would never initiate a discussion with us. In the sense that he was busy, he was reading his books, taking notes, reading his books, taking notes. If we had a question from him, then he would answer our question. He's not cold, he's not dry. You want to talk to him, he'll talk to you. But he's not going to sit there every 5 minutes and be like, okay, I'm tired of this. So what are your plans for Thanksgiving? He's not going to do that. He works without distractions. And then how do we work, brothers and sisters? How do our youth work? 5 minutes we work on our project. After 5 minutes we're like, oh, tired. We have to grab some coffee. So we go, we grab the coffee, you come back. You work for another 5 minutes. Oh, someone posted something on Twitter. Baba, people post things on Twitter, like 1 million posts every second. You're going to be distracted by... 5 minutes later passes by, someone posted something on Facebook, I have to check it out. This is how we work. This is how our ulama used to work, that they were able to pass on this heritage for 1400 years and get it all the way to us. Recite salawat. This is the second characteristic. Let's move on to the third characteristic. This person is able to keep his word. When he gives a promise, you are sure that he is going to hold on to his promise. Brothers and sisters, I don't even want to get started on how much emphasis Islam has placed on this issue. I also don't even want to get started on how far away we are from what Islam wants us to do regarding this issue. I'll just mention a couple stories and we'll move on. It's truly, truly an embarrassing fact that when a Muslim says, I'll do this for you, you can't be so sure that it's actually going to happen. Usually, you know what they say? They say, Inshallah, I'll take care of it. You know what Inshallah means? I know what Inshallah means. I'll tell you what Inshallah means. I remember I was very young, grew up in the East Coast. One time I was going with my mother and a sister, and I was very young, maybe 7 or 8 years of age. And as we were driving, it was my mother was driving and this sister in the front, me and the sister's son, we were sitting in the back, and I don't remember where we were going somewhere. And so my mother turned to the sister and said, well, your child is such good friends with my child, it's good that you guys come over. And the sister turned to my mother, she said, yes, we will come inshallah. And then the child in the back, he started crying. They said, my mom turned to the sister and said, what's going on? What does inshallah mean for him? She said, inshallah means for him that it's never going to happen. That's what inshallah means for him. This is, of course, something that we laugh at, and that's fine. But it's such an embarrassing fact and an unfortunate fact that when we use this word, it means what? Probably not going to happen. This is a problem, brothers and sisters. They say the Prophet one day, he had made a promise, an appointment to meet someone on one side of one of the alleys in the city of Medina. And the Prophet went there, that person was late. He waited and he waited for this person, and this person did not show up. And he kept waiting there until the sun changed its position, and a moment came where the sun of Arabia was shining on the Prophet, and he was sweating. He was standing there in the sun, and some of his companions came to him and said, Ya Rasulullah, you know, you're standing over there. Why don't you just come on this side of the alley? You were on that side of the alley. Now the sun is on that side. Why don't you come on this side of the alley? What did the Prophet say? The Prophet said, no. I made an appointment to meet this guy on this side of the alley. I'm going to wait for him on that side of the alley. If he comes, he comes. But if he doesn't come, at least I have held up my side of the promise. This is how the Ahlul Bayt taught us to keep our words. Recite salawat please. This is why when you look in Islam, now this is a topic for another lecture some other day, but when you look at Islam, in fact one of the things that you find in Islam is that Islam, from the very beginning, it started a movement against people who will just throw out promises. There were people back then, whatever you would say, they wanted to make sure that you would listen to them. They would say, Wallahi, I swear, Uqsimu billah, I swear. What did Islam do? Islam said, okay, listen, from now on, this is too much. From now on, you say Uqsimu, there's going to be kafara if you don't hold it up. There's consequences for just throwing out promises. Now there's one very important point here I want to mention before we move on. And this point will help us when it comes to keeping our promises, brothers. This point is this. When they come to us, sometimes we start throwing out promises because we get lost in the moment. What do I mean by this? Sometimes you meet a new brother, a new sister, for example. You're just getting to know this person because you're getting emotional and you're just getting lost in the moment. In Farsi we say jav giriftatish. All of a sudden this guy starts throwing out promises. Yes, we will do this, we will do that, and then we'll do this. A brother and sister, they like each other, they're getting married. The brother, he will get lost in terms of his emotions. He'll just start throwing out promises for the sister. Yes, inshallah, we will have the perfect life, the perfect wedding. After that, I will buy you the perfect car, the perfect house. We will have everything. Don't just go out there and throw out promises like that. When they come to you, say, brother, can you take care of this project? You only are supposed to promise the things that you are absolutely sure about. Sometimes a little less, because you don't know what's going to go wrong. You say, this A, B, C, I can promise. D, E, F, we will try to do it, but I cannot promise. This has to turn into a culture for us. This, I will try, we will push for it, but I can't promise that I will do this. One of the reasons why we can't hold our promises, we can't follow up on them, is because when it comes to the expectations that people have of us, we just start throwing out promise after promise, and then later on that we have to follow up on these promises, we're not able to do so. Recite salawat, please. This is why in the words of the 6th Imam, he says that there are 3 things that a Muslim is supposed to take care of, regardless of whether he is dealing with a Muslim and a mu'min, or a mushrik or a kafir. Doesn't matter. 3 things. Number 1, if a person comes to you and gives you an amana, you have to return that amana to him, regardless of whether he's Muslim and mu'min or mushrik and kafir. Number 2, if that person is your parent, your mother or father, you have to respect them and you have to obey them if they ask for something legitimate, regardless of whether it's a Muslim and mu'min or mushrik and kafir. Number 3, when you give someone a promise, you have to hold on to that promise, regardless of whether the person is Muslim mu'min or mushrik and kafir. This is why we have many of our maraja, including Ayatollah Sistani, for example, they say that if someone gives a promise and they really mean to give this promise, it's wajib on them to follow up on this promise. Unless that person that they gave the promise to, he says it's okay, you don't have to take care of this, then that's a different issue. But they say if it's an important promise, you have to follow up on it. It's wajib for you to follow up on it. So this is what Islam has to say when it comes to keeping our word. Recite a salawat, please. Let us now move on to the 4th characteristic, which is this, that this person who is a professional, whatever he does in a neat and organized and beautiful fashion. Brothers and sisters, this is another problem that we have. I don't know if I've definitely experienced this. Sometimes when you go to halal restaurants, this is a halal restaurant, okay. When you go to this halal restaurant, this naturally means that not everyone, but most people are going to be Muslim. You probably have Shia in there as well. When you go and you sit, especially if it's a buffet, it's just so embarrassing how you look at some of these tables, how people come and eat their food. You feel like there was a hurricane that just came through, passed through, and now they have to send in people to come and do damage control. Why? Because this person had lunch. The way he's had lunch, there's food on the left, on the right, under the plate, sometimes under the shoes. The guy's walking out, there's rice under his shoes. This is embarrassing. This is not how the Prophet did the work that he used to do. This is a major issue that we have. It is extremely embarrassing, brothers and sisters. The Prophet was not like this. The Prophet, even the smallest things that he did it in a nice and neat and organized fashion. When the Prophet wanted to go out and meet his friends, he didn't just throw anything on and just like, oh, I'm meeting you guys, I'll just throw anything on and I'll just meet you guys. No. They say the Prophet, he used to put on his cologne or whatever the perfume that they used to use, the atr that they used to use, and then he would go in front of the mirror, he would take care of his hair as much as he can, and then they would say even if he didn't have a mirror, he would look inside of the house that they had in the courtyards back then. He would fix his appearance. Today you call a brother, we need to meet you. He comes and meets you. You feel like he's dressed the same way that he was when he woke up in the morning. It's as if you took him right out of bed and now he is in front of you. This is embarrassing for us, brothers and sisters. Let us go through one of the stories that we can learn from the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There was a character that we spoke of a couple of nights ago. His name was Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh. We talked about his akhlaq. And when we were talking about Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh, if you remember, I said the way the Prophet put him inside of this grave, there was a story behind it. We didn't go through it, and we're going to go through it now. This Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh, who I mentioned, was amongst the very famous companions of the Prophet. When they brought his body to put his body inside of the grave, the Prophet said, you can't put the body inside of the grave. They said, Ya Rasulullah, let's just put this body inside of the grave, get this done with. There's so many people, they're late. We just want to put them and get this done with. The Prophet said, no, like this, I will not allow you to put the body inside of the grave. They said, then what do you want us to do? He said, allow me to fix the grave. They say the Prophet went inside the grave, he removed the rocks. He said, this grave that you have made, it looks so ugly. You haven't even smoothened the shape, the sides. He went inside of the grave, he started to remove some of these rocks. He made the grave look nice, organized, and then he came out. He said, I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking that the Prophet is wasting his time because this grave is going to fall apart in a couple of days. In a couple of days, there are going to be worms and reptiles inside of this grave. He's wasting his time. But Rahimallahu mra'an, Allah's mercy is upon the one. إِذَا عَمِلَ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا, when he does something good, أَتْقَنَهُ, he does it and he leaves no flaws in the project that he is taking care of. When a mu'min is doing something good, he does it in the proper way. Not in the way that there are 10, 20 different flaws in it. And when the person is done with the project, you can't even rely on the work that he has done. Recite salawat, please. These are the 4 characteristics that make someone a professional. Let us move on to the final point that we want to make, inshallah. The final point is this. We said at the beginning there is a point that Islam teaches us when it comes to this concept of professionalism, that the Western ideology has in a very big way ignored and does not teach us about this concept. What is that missing ingredient? That missing ingredient is this, brothers and sisters. In the West, the only thing that they will tell you is that you need to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing, you have to be good at it. That's what they will tell you. But they won't tell you to pay attention to what it is that you're doing. Your job might be to kill people. Doesn't matter. If you're good at your job, then you're fine. Sometimes you talk to people, what this person is doing is so evil, it's ruining families. It's pushing people apart from one another. But when you sit down with this person, he says, oh, well, I'm very good at what you do. I wish you weren't. It's not about just being good at what you do. You have to pay attention to the work that you're doing. If you don't pay attention to this, what you end up with in society is a cycle. Pay attention to this cycle. It's a little difficult to convey this cycle, so please pay attention. When you have professionals who only pay attention to whether they're good at what they're doing or not, and they don't pay attention to whether what they're doing is positive or not, whether they are actually helping people or not, what you end up with is a cycle in which the first group of professionals, the work that they do is causing problems for society. And then when those problems come into society, another group of professionals will come and they will take those same problems and they will solve them. These professionals, instead of helping the society to become a better place, what are they doing? They are just solving the problems that another group of professionals started to begin with. I'll give you an example. Right? Today, for example, you have professionals. These are medical professionals. They work very hard. They study very hard. This person, he's an oncologist, for example. He will help you if, God forbid, you are dealing with cancer. Okay, he's a professional. He does a very good job at what he does. Ahsan, very good. So let me ask you, so you have cancer. Where is this cancer coming from? One of the leading causes of cancer is smoking. Where is this smoking coming from? It's coming from these cigarettes that are being produced. Who is producing these cigarettes? Another group of professionals who are really, really good at what they do. One group of professionals sits there because they're good at what they do. They don't understand that they're causing problems. They cause these problems. And then another group of professionals, once you have cancer because of the work of some other professional, the other guy will come and say, by the way, I'm a professional. If you have a problem, I can solve it for you. When you look at the financial sector of this society that we live in, some of the most brightest minds are in the financial sector today. They are so bright, brothers and sisters, that they will manipulate your mind and they will make you think that when you're swiping your credit card, they will get you to think about the 2% cash back that you are getting instead of the 98% that you are actually spending. You're swiping this card, you're thinking, I'm getting 2% cash back on this. But you don't pay attention that you are spending 98% of your own money. They are so smart, they will manipulate your mind and my mind. These are professionals. And then when you follow down this road, you reach a point where you are so severely in debt, then another group of professionals will come. They will say, we're professionals. If you're in debt, we can help you to get out of debt, for example. You see that it is a cycle. Islam doesn't want this type of professional. Islam teaches us that it's not just about being good at what you do. What you do also has to be a good thing that you're doing. I'll give you one example and we'll end. There were in history, during the time of the Ahlul Bayt in particular, there were individuals who, based on these standards that we have in the West, they were very professional at the work that they did. Meaning that when they set a goal for themselves, no one and nothing was going to stop them from achieving this goal. Very professional. But because what they were doing was not the right thing, they were the worst people who ever lived. I'll give you an example. One of the examples is an individual by the name of Ma'mun. Ma'mun, this person was a professional. If you study the life of Ma'mun, you see Ma'mun from the very beginning, he set a goal for himself. What was this goal? I'm going to become Khalifa of the Muslim Ummah. This is a very big goal, brothers and sisters. This goes far more than saying, for example, I'm going to become the president of this country or that country. Recite a salawat, please. This goes far more than becoming a president of this country. No, he says the Muslim Ummah, I am going to become Khalifa of the whole Muslim Ummah. So what was Ma'mun doing? From a very young age, he had another brother by the name of Amin. Amin was his elder brother. He had an advantage because he was older. Everyone knew that when Harun al-Rashid passes away, la'natullahi alayh, who is going to become Khalifa? The older brother is going to become Khalifa. Ma'mun understood this from since the age he was 6 or 7 years old. As much as Amin used to go and have fun and enjoy his time, Ma'mun was doing what? He was studying inside the castle. As much as Amin used to go hunting, which was a form of entertainment back then, you find that Ma'mun chose a mentor for himself, a character by the name of Fadl ibn Sahl. If you've seen the movie of Imam Ridha, you would have noticed this character. And Fadl ibn Sahl starts to train him, and train him and prepare him for this maqam of khilafat of the Muslim Ummah. Until the time comes where Harun al-Rashid, he is in Baghdad, there is a revolution, there is a revolt in the region of Khurasan. When this revolt starts, Harun al-Rashid needs to send someone to go and take care of this issue. Who does he send? He doesn't send his older son. He sends Ma'mun. He says, Amin cannot take care of it. Ma'mun, he's capable. He can go and take care of it. So he says, Ma'mun, you go to Khurasan and take care of this issue. Ma'mun goes there and he takes care of this issue. And then Harun al-Rashid passes away. Where? In Baghdad. Automatically, who becomes Khalifa? The older son. Amin becomes Khalifa. Is Ma'mun going to stop there? No, he's a professional. He's going to continue going. He wants to become Khalifa of the Muslim Ummah. They say that Ma'mun took his army all the way from Khurasan, all the way to where? To Baghdad. Who is he going to fight? He is going to fight his own brother. He's not going to stop at any obstacle that you put in front of him. You put his own blood, his own flesh in front of him, he's not going to stop there. He came, he fighted the army of Amin so much that a point came that he ordered that they have Amin beheaded in the castle in Baghdad. Because he's a professional, he doesn't stop anywhere. Any obstacle you put in front of him. They say even after Ma'mun had become Khalifa, he put the head of Amin in one of his courtyards. Anyone who wanted to come and take from Baytul Mal, they wanted their stipend, their monthly payment, he said no. First go and disrespect the head of Amin, and then you come to me, I will give you my stipend. Based on these standards in the West, this person you will also have to call what? A professional. But this is not the professional that Islam wants us to be. Islam says you have to choose something that is going to help the lives of people, and then you have to be good at that thing. Not that you just choose anything and everything, and you say, I'm good at it, therefore I'm okay. Based on these standards, these very superficial standards of the West, you know who else was a professional? Hitler was a professional based on these standards. Hitler was a professional. He got people to rally around him in economic chaos that was taking place in Germany at that time. He got the whole nation to rally around him. He fought a battle on multiple fronts. People who were enemies of one another, they had to unite just because of Hitler. Because they knew that if they don't unite, there's no stopping Hitler. He took over France. He made some wrong decisions. But you see, his goal was so important for him that the moment came where he realized that he is not going to be able to achieve his goal. What did he do? He committed suicide. That's how fixated his mind was on his goal. Based on these standards, you would have to call someone like him also a professional. But that's not what Islam wants. Islam says you choose something that's good for people, it helps people, and then you do good. And you're the best at what you do. This is why that hadith that we read said, إِذَا عَمِلَ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا أَتْقَنَهُ. When you're doing something good, you do itqan. Not that you just choose anything and you say, well, I'm good at it. No, this is not the type of professionalism that Islam wants from us. Inshallah, with that, we will end tonight's talk. If the brothers and sisters turn off the lights, we will prepare ourselves to hear the musibah of our beloved 8th Imam. Let us take our hearts, brothers and sisters, to the region of Khurasan, to the city of Tus, to the house of Ali ibn Musa Ridha, this 8th Imam of ours who is extremely gharib, extremely lonely. We know that Imam al-Ridha was one of the most lonely Imams that we had. This is why we refer to Imam al-Ridha as Gharib al-Ghuraba. In fact, Imam al-Ridha was so gharib that even the Imams before him, they would tell everyone that there is going to be one of the children of Fatima, he is going to be gharib, he is going to be lonely. Imam al-Sadiq says, they say that Imam al-Sadiq saw someone who was from the region of Khurasan, from that area, and he turned to this person, he said, oh man, listen, one day is going to come that one of my children who is extremely gharib is going to be buried in the land and in the city of Tus. And soon people will gather around him, soon people will come to visit him. Imam al-Ridha is so gharib that even someone like Imam al-Sadiq calls him Gharibul Ghuraba. One of the moments that shows the ghurbah, the loneliness of the 8th Imam, is the moment that Imam al-Ridha was forced to leave the city of Medina. We know that Ma'mun forced Imam al-Ridha to leave the city where he had grown up, the city where his family was generation after generation. Came a point where they had to force Imam al-Ridha outside of the city of Medina to move on to Khurasan. They say that these moments were very difficult moments for the Ahlul Bayt. They say, one of the Rawis, one of the narrators says that I was with Imam al-Ridha on that day. Before heading outside of the city of Medina, starting his journey towards the city of Khurasan, the region of Khurasan, I saw him that he went to the shrine and the grave of the Prophet to say goodbye to the grave of the Prophet. He says, as I was standing outside of the masjid of the Prophet, I saw Imam al-Ridha. He went inside, he sat by the grave of the Prophet, and he started to cry and cry very hard. And he started to cry, and then he got up as if he wanted to leave the Prophet, as if he had said his goodbyes to the Prophet. He came all the way to the door, and it's as if he cannot leave Medina, he cannot leave the masjid of the Prophet. He says he could not leave the door. He went all the way back to the grave. He sat at the grave again, and he started to cry again. Again he got up, and this time it looked like he was going to leave, but this time again, the moment that he came all the way to the door, he could not leave Masjid al-Nabi. Again he went and he sat. He says this happened multiple times. Again and again Imam al-Ridha wanted to leave, until one moment I saw, as his eyes were full of tears, I saw him leave the masjid finally. I turned towards him, I said, Ya Ali ibn Musa Ridha, inshallah you will have an easy trip. Inshallah it will not be full of difficulties. To this the 8th Imam responded, he said, how is this going to be an easy trip for me when my whole family is being kept in the city of Medina and me lonely, alone by myself? I have to leave the city of Medina and I have to go all the way to Khurasan. And let me tell you something, let me tell you and inform you that there is no coming back from this trip. The moment I leave Medina, this is going to be the final moments that I see my son, that I see my family. Because when I go to Khurasan, this mal'oon, he is going to put poison in my body. He is going to force me to drink poison, and I will not ever be able to return to the city of the Prophet, as his tears were falling from his eyes. But brothers and sisters, there is one encounter that Imam al-Ridha has made it so clear how gharib and lonely he was. One of the poets of the Ahlul Bayt by the name of Di'bil says, one day I came to Imam al-Ridha after he had moved to Khurasan. I came to Ali ibn Musa Ridha. I said, Ya Ali ibn Musa Ridha, I recite poems for you and the Ahlul Bayt. I have recited a couple of lines. Allow me to recite these lines for you. And these were lines and poems that were addressed towards Fatima al-Zahra, telling Fatima al-Zahra about the masa'ib that all of her children went through after she passed away. And Imam al-Ridha said, go ahead Di'bil, I would be more than happy to hear these lines of poem. Di'bil says, I started out with certain lines until I reached this line. I said, Ya Fatima, لو خلت الحسين مجدلا, if you could only picture your Hussein on the plains of Karbala, mujaddalan, he is struggling in his own blood, he is turning over and over while his blood has covered his own beard. I said that Fatima, if you could only picture and imagine this, you would start crying and mourning for Hussein. وَقَدْ مَاتَ عَطْشَانًا بِشَتِّ فُرَاتِ, and he is killed while he is thirsty, even though he is right by the river of Furat. And I continued like this until I came to this line. I said, وَبِبَغْدَادَ وَقَبْرٍ بِبَغْدَادَ لِنَفْسٍ زَكِيَّةٍ, and there is also another grave of one of your children in Baghdad, a very pure child of yours. This child of yours is also gharib. Di'bil says, when I reached this line, then Imam al-Ridha turned towards me. He said, listen Di'bil, I heard how you were mourning this line for Imam al-Qadim. Would you allow me to add a line of my own as well? And Di'bil said, Ya Imam al-Ridha, go ahead. In other words, Imam al-Ridha is saying, let me speak to my mother. Let me tell my mother about the musibah that Ali ibn Musa is going to go through. Di'bil says that the Imam started to recite some lines. He said, وَقَبْرٍ بِتُوسٍ يَا لَهَا مِن مُصِيبَةٍ. And Fatima, there is also a grave of one of your children in the city of Tus. Ya laha min musibatin. This grave, it carries with it so much sadness, so much sorrow, so many musibah and masa'ib. Alahat ala al-ahsha'i biz-zafarati. When you remember this grave, it puts your heart, it sets your heart on fire, Ya Fatima. And then I turned, there Bill says, I turned to Imam al-Ridha, I said, Ya Imam al-Ridha, which grave is this that you're talking about? We don't have a grave from one of the children of Fatima al-Zahra here in the city of Tus. And Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha turned towards him and he said, there Bill, this is my grave. This is the grave of Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. This mal'oon, he will make me drink poison and then they will bury me near this other mal'oon, his father, Harun la'natullahi alayh. And this will be the ghurbah of the children of Fatima al-Zahra. Ala la'natullah ala al-qawm al-zalimin. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He blesses all of us with the chance, the tawfiq and the opportunity to be amongst the true followers of the Ahlul Bayt, inshaAllah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He grants all of our brothers and sisters who are sick and ill with health and afiyah, inshaAllah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He grants all of our scholars and all of our maraji long lives, inshaAllah. And finally, last but not least, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He grants the hawa'ij, the requests, the du'as of all of the brothers and sisters who are here, all of the zawar, all of those who mourn about Abdullah and the family of the Ahlul Bayt. And amongst these hawa'ij, we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hastens the return of our beloved 12th Imam bin Nabi wa alih. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات.